In my new company, I currently run a startup called CodeSpeak, where we're basically continuing what we started doing in Kotlin, where the idea was to raise the level of abstraction, make programming nicer for people. So here we're trying to do the same thing again, but on a new level, using LLMs, trying to elevate programming to the level of human language. So CodeSpeak wants to be this new generation, what comes after vibe coding, let's say, and that's our mission, more or less. So recently I've been talking a lot about that, and I imagine we'll talk a little bit more about how it works in detail.
So I think a good place to start here, just as a refresher for anyone who might not be aware, when you say the phrase vibe coding, what do you mean by that?
Okay, so it's actually an excellent question, because different people mean slightly different things. I think the sort of narrow definition of vibe coding is very literal. When you go off the vibes and you don't really look at the code, and there is a coding agent, and you kind of hit it with your ideas and get a prototype that you can iterate quickly and throw together something working. And you go with sort of LLM's ideas more than you might if you were more serious about this project. So this is like a narrow definition. But there is also the general idea of coding with an agent as a solo developer, not necessarily working solo on the project, but here and now you're one person in front of a coding agent, and you're prompting it to build code for you. And this is how a lot of serious software is being developed right now. A lot of people use Claude Code or other agents at work. And this doesn't have a proper name, like agentic coding, I guess.
That's a fairly recent one. It's kind of catching on, but a lot of these terms are sort of appearing and disappearing. We haven't really got this clear terminology yet. That's going to be something that sort of irons out over the next couple of years, I would assume.
Yeah. So but there is this mode of operation when you are a developer who's working on a serious project that's not like a one-off thing that you're throwing away. And you're using a coding agent as your single player tool on your machine. And then speaking of terminology, there is another term that's kind of catching on right now. It's agentic engineering. And I guess this is more of a concept right now than an actual phenomenon. But people realize that what we have right now with this very narrow mode of using agents to write code on your machine has to scale somehow to the actual software engineering level when you build the entire system, you communicate with other people on the team, you have long history in your project, you have processes, you have quality concerns, and so on and so forth. So these things, the word engineering is very important there. And basically, this is the world that we're building CodeSpeak for. So the initial idea, before I heard the words agentic engineering for the first time, the idea was to try to imagine this world and try to build for it. And the very early sort of concept of CodeSpeak was, if we take software engineering and stop writing code by hand, what's left? What's the engineering part of it?
Right.
There is, some people call themselves coders or software developers, and some people call them software engineers. And is there a conceptual difference there? And if code gets written for you, are you still an engineer? And my answer is yes. And we want to capture this engineering aspect and make tooling that's good for it.
Well, the obvious question there is how? If you're using CodeSpeak, what are you actually engineering that this is still engineering?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So I'll go with what you're engineering first, and then go into how CodeSpeak is trying to address this. So if you think about the evolution of how people made software over the years, there were lower level languages and then we raise level of abstraction. So the C programming language, for example, was considered a higher level programming language at some point.
Yeah,
nowadays it's very low level.
A bit of a tangent, but like that's something a lot of people completely forget about who don't know any of their programming history. That was a big abstraction. You can actually go find writings of people back then who speak about C the same way that people now speak about a language like Rust.
Fair, yeah. And also, like, Rust is not the highest level possible.
Sure. It was just a popular example.
Yeah, so, and back then, C was basically coming in the place of assembly languages. And people who were used to coding in assembly would take a C compiler and like compile their code and then look at the assembly that was generated behind the scenes and be like completely appalled by how ugly it was. And this is something you can absolutely recognize in today's agentic coding, where you're a programmer trained in whatever languages, and now you generate this code, and it's kind of ugly if you look at it. It works, but it's ugly.
Right.
And this is completely history repeating itself. And we had this, like, if you think about, Java virtual machine emitting code at runtime, the kind of code it emits may be like mind-bogglingly weird and not very nice, but it works, and it's even performant a lot of the time. So, we've had this multiple times, and now we are at another sort of cycle of raising the level of abstraction and being slightly appalled at what kind of code is being generated.
As a very approachable example, if anyone wants to experiment with this idea, if you understand any basics of web development, go and use a drag and drop web editor and then look at the HTML it generates behind the scenes. And you will have no idea why it works, but it probably does work.
Fair, yeah. So this would be sort of the previous generation of like no-code tools, right? Were those like template-based drag and drop editors. And nowadays we have agents. I don't even need to drag and drop anything. I can just say what I want, and Claude builds something for me that kind of looks nice and can work. Yeah. So why I brought this up was that throughout the years, different like programming paradigms changed, and we went from assembly to C to Java to Kotlin to whatever. But some things stayed unchanged throughout the entire thing. People kept talking about dry, about solid, about kiss, things that are like fundamental principles of, basically let's organize what we're working with, organize our systems in a way that's easy to maintain, easy to modify, easy to extend, so on and so forth. And that's engineering. And interestingly, that's engineering even out of the context of software. It's engineering in general. Like in electrical engineering, you have absolutely the same concerns where you're building something complicated and you really want it to be sort of logically organized and be maintainable and extendable and whatnot. And this is engineering as such. Like you can distill the engineering aspect out of any engineering discipline. And there, this is what we're after. Like, if we get to the level of smartness of agents where code is solved, we're not quite there yet, but we're getting close. Like maybe code gets solved at some point. The engineering aspect still remains. We still need to organize our understanding of the systems in a way that we can keep evolving them. And the interesting thing about this is that maybe models get very smart. Maybe models can have huge memory and not really care about things being logically organized because they can keep track of everything and so on and so forth. But the thing is, like maybe it's even hard to predict what kind of models we get in 5 years. Maybe they're super smart. Maybe they're like a little smarter than now. I don't know. There's another thing I do know, though. 5 years from now, humans will be the same.
Sure.
And if, as a human engineer, as a human author of a system, I am my today's self, I still need the logically organized complexity. I need to know that my system is, subdivided in modules I can navigate. I can understand the levels of abstraction, because otherwise it doesn't fit into my mind. And that's the thing. Like, this is why engineering survives. Humans don't have infinite memory. Humans don't have infinite conceptual power. They need well-organized concepts to navigate the complexity of the systems they're building. And, obviously, when we get better tools, we start building more complex systems. And we've seen this over the years. Early computer systems were tiny programs compared to what we have now. Now we can build, payments infrastructure that spans the entire planet, and it's incredibly complex. With more power from LLM code generation technology, we can build even more complex systems. And there is a lot of complexity in the world that's not automated yet. So we will be building those systems. We will be getting like nicer level of automation, which will increase complexity quite a lot. And for us, as the ones who want these systems and know what they want, it's crucial to be able to keep in mind like where we are and where we're going with the system. And to do that, we need the engineering discipline to organize our understanding of it.